Here it is, guys, the new DeLorean EV. 100 kilowatt hour battery pack can take this new car 0 to 60 in just under 3 seconds and 0 to 88, the magic number, miles per hour in 4.3 seconds.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
So what we're gonna do in this video, focus on the front view here. I talked about this on my second channel, all around this car, about the design and what I think of it. You can go and check that out on my second channel. Bambly, I'm gonna link that down in the description. Now, here is, of course, the original DMC-12 Back to the Future car up there, up top. And it looks so cool, doesn't it? Ital design, Giugiaro design, same as the new one actually. So they've both been designed by Ital Design and Giugiaro, and I think the new one looks really, really good. It's such an elegant and organic design compared to the very, very boxy shape of the 80s, which is typical for this era. The style of Giugiaro of this time, with the Golf of the time and a lot of different cars looking very similar in this type of era of the 80s. And the thing with the DMC-12 is it's not supposed to be too crazy, and it's not supposed to stick up too much. Yes, we do have the gullwing doors here that go up, and we do have that on the new one as well, which I think is really cool. However, I do think the new one down here, it looks very beautiful. It's a beautiful design, but it just lacks that, you know, details of quirkiness that the original had. For example, in my opinion, looking at it from a side view, you have a very long front end here, for example, and the new one doesn't really have that. And then we have this black line that I really like, it's separation line in the body, and we don't have that here either. However, we do have, if we look at the side view, we have this indicator, kind of have the same implementation in the new one, and also with this rear end in the tail right here. And I really like this rear end, which I talked about in the other video. But now let's have a look at the front view. And what I want to do in this, I want to redesign this into something that is a little more quirky than what we have right here at the bottom. So what I want to do, this is a very distinct front fascia. It doesn't really have a clear identity because a lot of cars looked very similar in the 80s, but I want to implement something like this in the new design. So I want to keep these daytime running lights right here. I think they look really cool. However, I'm gonna add this black bar, because it was a version of the DMC-12 that had a thick sticker right here, all black, and I really like that because it kind of separates. It makes the car look a lot lighter when you have that black graphic, and it's also part of this design. And we kind of have a starting point for that with this lighting sticking into the body, and then we have it here in the charging port as well. But then this area, even though it has a very gorgeous shoulder line both in the rear and this line in the front, very nicely done, but this kind of looks a little thick to me. It looks a little too the volumes of this door is a little too big. So I think if we add a separation line in here, it's going to create a lightness to this design, and I think it's really going to work. And of course, it's an homage to the original one. And in the front view, I want to have these quad headlights implement something like that. So this black graphics, as you can see right here, kind of make it go down something like this, maybe make it a little thicker in the front end. And in this, we can house now underneath these the daytime running light, we can have like 4 separated headlights like this, and maybe a amber LED bar at the bottom there to kind of visualize this piece right here as well. I think that could look really cool. However, it's gonna look a little quirky, and that's exactly what we want with a DeLorean, right? Because it is a special car. It's not supposed to look like anything else. It also I think it's supposed to look like you know, something from the future, and that means that we can have these beautiful proportions of the car, but working a little bit more on the graphic to add some quirkiness to it. This thing right here looks very cool. We have some LEDs in this piece right here, but I want to make it shorter, maybe have it end right here, so we have a strong lower part with an opening right about here. So this whole piece I want to have open and remove these fins in the front end. Have them still be there because we have them right here, as you can see in the original, but just a little less pronounced that we have right here. So with that said, let's continue here in Photoshop and let's see what we can do with the DeLorean Redesign. So when I started redesigning this car, when I first saw it this morning, actually, I thought it was a fantastic looking car. Ital Design has this tradition of usually creating very quirky looking cars. Ital Design compared to Pininfarina, they're two very different philosophies when it comes to designing cars. Pininfarina is more of a classic elegance, timeless proportions, while Ital Design has always been more on the experimental side when it comes to the design. However, this looks like more of a Pininfarina design, in my opinion, because of the timeless proportions and very, very simple graphics of this car. So I was surprised. I think it looks really cool. I love the wheels on this car. This is the type of wheels that I want to see, big, filling out the wheelhouses. And as you can see, it's a clear representation or modernization of the old wheels in silver, but now they're black, but we still have the same kind of spoke design, and I absolutely love the way that turned out. What's really sad about this specific model when it goes into production, it's going to be produced in Italy, and they're only going to produce 88 units of this car. I'm not sure if it's 88 versions of only a sort of a launch edition trim, or if they're going to continue to produce this in maybe a lower trim level or something like that. It's such a good looking design with a range of 300 miles and 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. It is a clear competitor to we have the Tesla Model S, we have the Porsche Taycan, we have the Lucid Air. There are a lot of these sedans now coming out, and I'm really excited about this because as you know, a lot of sedans, for example the Kia K5 is gonna be scrapped for next year, even though it's on sale right now. That's in the latest of scrapped sedans here in the US, and it's unfortunate because I really like the proportions of a proper looking sedan, and this is just a gorgeous one, even though it has this massive doors that goes up. So it's kind of sad that they're only planning on building 88 units of this. I really hope that they're gonna figure out their manufacturing methods, because it is a brand new company. They have to get the snowball rolling, and that means that it requires a lot of momentum and a lot of planning and work to get that up and running. But I really hope that they take this design and kind of figure out the production cost and bring the cost down so they can put this into mass production, because I honestly think it is a really beautiful EV. It doesn't look like, for example, the Mercedes EQS. It has this one, the new DeLorean Alpha5 as it's called. It has a drag coefficient of 0.23, which is really, really good, but it's not as good as a Mercedes EQS, which has a drag coefficient of 0.20. However, when you compare the two designs, if I have to pick one design out of these two, the EQS or this new DeLorean, this DeLorean is just 10 times better looking than the Mercedes EQS, which looks like just a bubble looking at it from a side view, like a blob, and this has some clear emotion in it. And it makes me excited because it shows that you can get a car looking this good as an EV and still have it be very efficient with a drag coefficient of 0.23. It gives me hope for the EV future, and that's what I'm so excited about this specific model. So I really hope they manage to get everything under control and manage to put this into production. So now let's talk about this redesign here. I really don't think it needs a lot of changes. I kind of want to have the almost hatchback design in the rear end, and that's the final touch I'm going to do to this design. Something I probably should have done. The first thing I did on this redesign was to mess with the proportions, but it's actually going to be the final piece of this redesign. I focused a lot on the front end and the graphics there to have it be, specifically if you look at this at night, you want to clearly know that this is something unusual coming up behind you in the rear view mirror at night on the highway. And I think having a front end that sits this low with very similar graphic positioning of the graphic details like we have in the original DMC-12, I think that could really work on this car. And in my opinion, it looks really cool having quad headlights in such a sporty looking front end that dips so drastically in the front. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the same philosophy as the, what's his name, the the Aston Martin Vulcan, which also looks like a supercar from a front view, specifically with the angle and the curvature of the front end. But then it looks like a muscle car from a straight front view, and that's kind of the same philosophy that I want to have here. So it looks like almost an exotic with a very vertical front end, with the graphics being very vertical as well, and not sitting on top of the hood like a Porsche, for example, if that makes sense. Two different philosophies, and I think this is the philosophy that I would go if I were to redesign this DeLorean, have some quirkiness in there and bring back the graphics of the original. The official unveiling of the actual physical model is going to happen at Pebble Beach in August, so I look forward to seeing videos from that out in real life. The photos that you see here are just renderings, so it's going to be cool to see how they translate into 3D out in the real world. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.